Hi everybody, so welcome to my new echoey office. I just moved last week from Groton to New London, so things are a little crazy here, but I have time to record this video for you in front of my new YouTube-y backdrop. So, we are doing chorale number 3. This is not a Bach chorale, it is a Johann Adam Hiller chorale. I've honestly never heard of him, but it's a good one, so we're going to do it. Before I go through and play all of the parts, I want to point out in measure 5 and measure 10 that there's a weird thing that happens. So if you don't have the music pulled up, please pull it up and look at what I'm talking about. Okay, so actually let's back it up to measure 1. Your time signature is Blues Clues style. What is it? Good, 4/4. So that means you have how many beats in each measure? 4. Good. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything's right. Everything's great. Now, when you switch from 4 to 5, suddenly your time signature changes to what? 2/4. Very good. Which means there are how many beats in a bar? 2. Good. The good news about this is that it's 2/4. Well, it's 4/4 going into 2/4, which means that the quarter note gets the beat in both 4/4 and in 2/4. So we're just going to count through it real quick so that your brain can understand what's happening. So let's just count measure 4 into measure 5 into measure 6. We're literally just going to count beats. Everybody's part does a different thing, but right now we're just going to count beats. Measure 4, measure 5, measure 6. Ready? We're going to do it a couple of times. So measure 4, ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I just finished at the end of measure 6. Did you see how when I went from measure 4 to measure 5, you don't even realize that the time signature has changed until we get to what would be beat 3, but I say beat 1. Listen one more time. Ready? So measure 4 goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. If that doesn't make sense to you, like in your brain, listen to your part, listen to me play through it a couple of times. It's one of those things, I think that if you think too hard, it actually makes it more difficult. So, play along with me. We can do this, especially you 5th graders. You got this, okay? Also, I'm wearing a beanie because, well, mostly because I'm super cool, but also because you don't want to see my hair right now. Okay, here we go. All right, let's do the violin 1 part, which I'm actually going to suggest for the 5th graders. 6 through 8, you can do either one that you want, but 5th graders, I actually think the violin 1 part is a little easier. Okay, here it goes. Let's go 1, 2, measure 1, and... Just 2 things I want to talk about before we're done with that. Obviously, you can replay that as many times as you need it, but look up in bar 9. Remember, that is an F natural on your E string, so that's a low 1. So if you were playing, you're going to be like, what was that? And it's going to sound weird. F natural, low 1. Also, please look at measure 12. Do you see how you have 2 A's with kind of looks like a smiley face? There's the lines under the A's and a thing. Basically, they want you to stop in between the notes there. So measure 12 goes, because they want 2 A's in a row there. But if they just wrote it as a half note, it would sound like, but they want that space. So it's, so if you need to just practice that measure and you just need to go, maybe write a down bow above the thing in measure 12 so that your brain, write down, down, up, so your brain knows what's going on. Suggest that. Okay. Okay, this is the second violin and the viola part. I don't know why they keep making you guys have the same parts. Before we get going, let's look at measure 2. You have something that comes back, measure 2, measure 7. Where else? Is that it? Yes, you have a weird bow thing. Just want to go over it so everybody's on the same page. So, in measure 2, you have 2 Ds with like lines under them and a little slur. So it looks like a smiley face. It looks like it's smiling at you. So that is played. That's measure 2. They want you to do a stop in between there. That's what that means. So, because they want that beat, they want a D for 2 beats, but they don't want it to be a half note because it would sound like this. And they want that. So if you need to write like a down bow and another down bow and then an up bow above that or whatever you need, that happens again in measure 7. Different notes, same idea. Okay, let's start at measure 1, second violins and violas. Are you ready? 1, 2, here you go. Just one more thing before we end. If you got to measure 11 and 12 and you were like, what is going on? That is so much movement. That was so fast. Try it without the slurs. And slow down. So at measure 11, if you're freaking out, just go. Sometimes you just need to get the notes in your left hand before you can add the weird bowy stuff. So don't freak out, okay? All right, cellos, you ready for your part played on a violin? I am. Here we go. You have a lot of weird accidentally stuff. Look at measure 4, or measure 3 and 4. You have a G sharp, and then in the next measure, you have a G natural, and then you have an F sharp. So make sure, if you can't remember, do your elevators. Be like, where was an F sharp again? What finger do I use? The G sharp is going to be an extension. So it's going to be a high 4. Ready? Let's do measure 1. 1, 2, here you go. So if you're freaking out, 5th and 6th graders, like measure 2, you've got this. And you're like, whoa, that's a lot of notes. There's a lot going on there. Take out your slurs. So until you feel more comfortable with it. You know, little chunks. Don't freak yourself out. My 6th grade cellists were really good at doing that. Don't freak yourself out, okay? You can do this. All right, basses. You ready for your bass part? Play it on a violin because that makes a lot of sense. Is there anything I need to tell you about before we do this? No, classic straightforward bass part. You ready? 1, 2, here you go.